Ever wish you had someone to bounce ideas off of? You know, someone who could help you see a problem in a whole new way. Well, get this. Today we're diving into the world of AI as co-intelligence. Or co-intelligence. Using large language models like ChatGPT as thought partners, it's almost like having a brainstorming buddy available 24/7. We're unpacking some really fascinating research by Alistair Hamill, where he jumps headfirst into using ChatGPT in this way. He calls it road testing ChatGPT as a co-intelligence. He even used ChatGPT to help design the experiment. Talk about meta, right? So Hamill wrote this paper, and he also created this hand-drawn diagram. It really brings the whole concept to life. It might seem a bit, I don't know, all over the place at first glance, but trust me, there's a method to the madness. Picture this. You're facing some kind of challenge. Maybe it's writing an amazing blog post, or maybe it's figuring out a really complex problem at work. Hamill's diagram, it maps out a journey from that initial spark, that first idea, to a polished final product, with the LLM acting as your thought partner every step of the way. So you start with a task, you draft some ideas, and then woo. And this is where it gets really interesting. You bring in the LLM, you feed it your work, you ask for feedback, and get ready for some serious thought-provoking insights. It's like having a super-powered sounding board to refine your thinking, really sharpen it up. And what really struck me is how Hamill always emphasizes that human element throughout this whole process. He shares these snippets of his actual back and forth with ChatGPT, and you can just tell that he's in the driver's seat. He's not just passively accepting whatever the AI spits out. For example, at one point he tells ChatGPT, the long-term memory is where the human's cognitive schemas are stored. They represent the prior knowledge I bring to a topic. He's essentially saying, hey, ChatGPT, remember all that knowledge I have. Let's factor that into, man. This whole exchange, it brings up a crucial point. What are cognitive schemas? They're basically mental frameworks, I guess you could say, kind of like mental shortcuts that help us organize and understand information. Think of them as those pre-built drawers in your brain that help you categorize and make sense of the world.
What's so fascinating here is that Hamill is actively shaping how the LLM interacts with him, reminding it to think about all of his knowledge, all of his experience. It really highlights how important clear communication is and setting boundaries, even when you're working with AI.
Absolutely. It's all about using the power of AI, but still, holding on to your own ideas. And that's going to become more and more important as this technology, becomes a bigger part of our lives. And it's not just about feeding the LLM information either. Hamill also uses it to challenge, like challenge his assumptions. There's this one part where he asks ChatGPT about like the strengths and weaknesses of his model. And guess what? ChatGPT does not hold back. It's basically like, hey, have you even thought about this potential pitfall? It reminds me of that friend we all have, the one who's always brutally honest with their feedback. You might not always want to hear it, but deep down it's coming from a good place. And ultimately, it just makes your work stronger.
Yeah, it's that critical distance. That's what's so valuable. We're often just too close to our own ideas, you
Yeah.
know? It's hard to see the flaws. Having that outside perspective, even if it's from AI, can help us see those blind spots and then ultimately, I think, strengthen our arguments.
Totally. And what I think is really cool is that Hamill takes it a step further. He actually asks ChatGPT for prompts, like specific prompts that he can use so that he doesn't get too reliant on the AI's feedback. You know what I mean? It's like he's building in these critical thinking safeguards right into the process from the start. For example, he talks about using prompts like, okay, so ChatGPT, before I even read your feedback, tell me, what are some ways my thinking might be flawed? Where might I have gone wrong here?
That's brilliant. By asking that question first, right off the bat, he's activating his own critical thinking skills before he's even seen the AI's perspective.
Yeah.
It's almost like he's pre-gaming his brain for constructive criticism.
Yeah, exactly. And it also prevents that like knee-jerk reaction we all have to just accept whatever the AI says without really thinking about it. He's actively like maintaining ownership over his own ideas. Now, let's go back to that hand-drawn diagram again for a second. It's not just about, like the text-based back and forth they're having. Hamill actually asks ChatGPT for feedback on the diagram itself. He's like, so what are the strengths and weaknesses of this visualization? How can I make it more clear and understandable?
I love that he does that. It really just highlights how much LLMs can help us become better visual communicators.
Yeah.
We often think about AI as being, stuck in the world of text, but being able to analyze and give feedback on visual stuff, that's incredibly powerful.
It's true. It's like having a design consultant on call 24/7. And ChatGPT delivers. It jumps right in and starts offering suggestions on like everything from the colors he used to how the elements are arranged. For example, it suggests that he used different colors to show the difference between, human-driven tasks and AI-supported tasks. It's such a small tweak, but it makes the whole visualization so much clearer.
Oh, yeah, it's visual hierarchy. It's
Wow.
about guiding the viewer's eye to the important information, and it's something that LLMs are surprisingly good at. They can process so much visual data.
And here's where it gets really meta. Hamill doesn't just blindly accept ChatGPT's feedback on the diagram. He pushes back, asks clarifying questions, and then ultimately, he uses his own judgment to decide which suggestions he wants to use.
Exactly. He's treating the LLM like a collaborator, not a dictator.
Sure.
It's all about taking that feedback, thinking about it in terms of your own experience, your own expertise, and then using it to make your own decisions.
This whole process reminds me of something you mentioned earlier about LLMs acting as sort of external memory field. Can you explain that a little bit more? What exactly does that mean? And how does it relate to this whole idea of co-intelligence?
Absolutely. So extended mind theory says that our minds aren't just, limited to what's inside our skull. Our thinking process, it extends out into the world around us. We use tools and technologies as extensions of our own cognitive abilities. Think about it this way. You don't memorize every single phone number you need. You just put them in your phone. You don't remember every single fact. You just Google it. These tools, they all become extensions of our memory. That frees up our brain to focus on more complicated stuff. And that's what's so interesting about LLMs and all of this. They have the potential to be really powerful external memory fields. They can store and organize and find tons of information. And then the best part is they can give it back to us in ways that make sense.
So instead of just asking, what is this? We can start asking things like, how does this connect to everything else I know? Or what are the implications of this? It's like next level learning and problem solving, right?
Exactly. And as LLMs get even better, they have the potential to become even more advanced.
Mhm.
Like they'll be able to do more reasoning, more analysis, to even help us solve problems more creatively.
Whoa. It's like having a team of the smartest researchers in the world right at your fingertips. A team that's ready to help you explore any question, anytime. The possibilities are, they're mind-blowing. And you know what's really wild? We are just barely scratching the surface here. As LLMs get more, advanced, who even knows what we'll be able to do? It's like we're standing at the edge of some unexplored world, and we have this brand new tool to help us map it out.
I know. It's not even just about the technology itself, right? It's about how we use it, how we fold it into our lives. Like Hamill's experiment, I think, is a perfect example. He isn't just sitting back and letting the AI do all the work. He's really taking control, asking good questions. And honestly, I think he's pushing both himself and the AI to be their best.
He's like a digital explorer, charting new ways to think. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with one last thing to think about. If we had an AI thought partner, what would you ask it? What would you want to explore together? What amazing thing could you create or discover? It's a big question, but the future just might depend on how we answer it. Until next time, keep those minds curious.